What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel for the first price prediction video of 2022, and let's start this one off with a bang. We have the apes here behind us, one of my favorite movies of all times, War for the Planet of the Apes. But what do you notice about them? They're like you. They're ready to kick ass and take names, baby. So let's get this one off started on a good note, and we're mostly going to use the technical analysis indicators that we have at our disposal, because that is the best glimpse into what could possibly happen for next week. And it's very interesting what is here. I have two new indicators that I'm going to go over with you guys, exactly what they mean and what they're telling us, as well as the inverse head and shoulders, this ascending level of resistance as well as ascending level of support that we do have that I don't have necessarily drawn out on the chart. I want to go over the low volume, what happened on Friday, and what is likely to happen as we start the new year, because we have a whole new tax slate. So I think it makes a lot of sense to be buying AMC, but we'll touch on that later on into the video. We're also going to go over the Ortex data, the stonk tracker data, and the max pain. So let's dive straight into this video. Now, these indicators that I have, kind of funky looking, right? Just some dots right here, some hollow dots, green and red hollow dots below and above the price of the stock. This is the SAR indicator. The parabolic SAR indicator is graphically shown on the chart of an asset as a series of dots placed either over or below the price, depending on the asset's momentum. A small dot is placed below the price when the trend of an asset is downward, while a dot is placed above the price when the trend is downward. So let's take a look at the chart. What's going on? The dot is below the price. That means the trend is upwards, and it's pretty easy to figure out. If it's red, the trend is down. If it's green, the trend is up. So on the daily candlestick chart, the SAR parabolic indicator is definitely telling us we have an upward trend going on. What is the MACD telling us? We have an upward trend going on. Ever since December 20th, we have stayed incredibly bullish on the MACD, even as the price of the stock went from $32.50 all the way down to where we are at right now at $27.20. The MACD almost has not budged at all. Neither has the SAR indicator. The super trend indicator is doing some very interesting things. This is this line right here with green arrows occasionally and red arrows, as well as a red line or a green line. If we take a look at the definition of a super trend indicator is plotted on either above or below the closing price to signal a buy or a sell. The indicator changes colors based on whether or not you should be buying. If the super trend indicator moves below the closing price, the indicator turns green and it signals an entry point or points to buy. So if we take a look at this on the daily candlestick chart, we are not bullish on this indicator, this super trend indicator. But if you pull this out to the 4-hour candlestick chart, we are clearly bullish with this indicator. So pretty interesting, the divergence that we are seeing there, as well as on the 4-hour candlestick chart. You're seeing something very weird happening with the SAR indicator. We were bullish in the beginning of the day on Friday. You could see this green line right here. And then we were bearish at the end of the day with this red line. And there's only two of these SAR indicator lines that actually, or dots, I should say, that happen on any given day on the 4-hour candlestick chart. So pretty interesting. I would take it with a grain of salt. As we know, all indicators, you kind of have to. My personal favorites for indicators are definitely the moving averages and the Bollinger bands. And if we do pull up the Bollinger bands, we'll go ahead, take the SAR and the super trend off, pull up the Bollinger bands. We can see we are in a time of less volatility as these bands are very narrow. Now, what always happens throughout the history of AMC, if these bands get compressed and they get close together in a substantial way, that leads to an even bigger move. Take a look back after we did squeeze in January. Before we squeezed in January, they were very narrow, signaling way less volatility heading up until we actually did squeeze. The lines got crazy wide right there, and we obviously went up 10x in share value. Same thing back here happened in June. Not as noticeable, but we were very narrow with not very much volatility at all in early May. They did widen out a little bit, and then we did just go parabolic in June. And this stayed wide And these are, I should say, 2 standard deviations away from the price. So if the price is moving around a lot every day, these bands are going to stay wider. We got obviously a little bit more compressed and started to sell off a little bit. Now we are at some of the most compressed levels that we have been at in a very long time. So I think this does suggest to us we're likely to see that move up. But we could see the 20-day simple moving average is really key and what I'm watching for the most. Out of everything else, it's this 20-day simple moving average. This line in between the 2 standard deviation lines, these green lines, away from the price. And you guys can see that the 20-day simple moving average is at $28.09 per share. We are slightly under this, but we track this to a T, and this was a resistance level for over 9 days. So in that sense, once we break out above this, it's going to turn into a massive support for us. And that's ultimately what I want to see to indicate that we're actually going to see that bullish reversal start, at least for a couple days in a row. Now, I did personally think December 30th was actually going to be the day that we would break out and continue on that rally. That didn't happen when we fell 6% the next day on Friday, but that does not mean we will not break out above the 20-day simple moving average again. I actually think that will happen in this upcoming week, towards the end of the week. But to sum up what I said in one of the last videos on Friday, this low volume, 23.4 million shares that traded hands and a 6% drop actually means that some people were selling stock, right? Obviously. And obviously by the volume, not very many people, right? So some people were selling weak-handed longs. That's literally what the Google definition will tell you. Google it if you don't believe me. But it also means that the long-term trend is still intact. And what's the long-term trend right now? Or long-term, short-term, whatever. Ever since we did hit that low at $20, we have been in an uptrend. We are up almost $8 since we did hit that low. So the overall trend is still intact. But as far as tomorrow, and really the beginning of the week, I do think it's going to be a little bit slower. A lot of people just want to see, once you head into the new year, what is going to do well. I think it's pretty clear the small caps and mid caps are going to see a recovery, and AMC is a part of that, small mid cap section of the markets. I think it's pretty clear everybody sees a recovery coming into those stocks, but it's like nobody wants to be the first one to go balls to the walls in those kind of stocks. They kind of want to see what's going to happen for a minute. Some people are still on holiday vacations, so on and so forth. So you do see less activity in the beginning of the first week. By the end of the week, I do expect to see things get more back to normal, and I do expect to see a break above the 20-day simple moving average, as well as this neckline that we are still struggling to stay across at about $29 per share. $28.50, $29 per share doesn't matter all too much. Now, I do want to point out for you guys this, and take these Bollinger Bands off so it's not too messy, this ascending level of support. So we are hitting higher lows. We're going up, coming down a little bit, then we're going back up again. Ever since December 14th, where we did see that 5% day off the bottom at about $20 per share, we're also seeing an ascending level of resistance. And you guys can see this all the way since we started selling off. Now, we're coming to a very important moment between these 2 trend lines, the down one and the up one, just to make this simple. And you're also seeing the Bollinger Bands moving average right in the middle of that. So we're certainly going to make a move past $29 per share or down to about $25 per share. If I were to throw a random guess out there, really due to it being a new year, the mid-cap rotation, Benzinga seeing 50% upside, the inverse head and shoulders, JP Morgan saying to buy AMC stock, that's why I'm going to put my price target in between $32.50 and $33 per share. Why is that as well? Because I don't know how strong this rotation is going to kick off the first week. My expectation is by the second week, you're going to see things really start to get rolling. You're going to see hedge funds start to position in these mid and small cap stocks that they have been shorting into oblivion. As well as that, we do have the next resistance level after we do break out of this descending level of support, as well as the 20-day simple moving average. It's going to be the 200-day moving average. The last time we tested this was back here, a couple days back here in early December, and then right here as well, December 21st. And that level is at about $32.63 per share. And then the Bollinger Bands, the upper end one, is at $32.01 flat. So I do expect to close in this range. That will be a solid move to the upside and will confirm this breakout. But I am putting my money where my mouth is. I do own $135 January 14th call on AMC. I spent $100 on it. So I do think by January 14th, or at least I hope so, if not, I'll lose all my money, the AMC will be at least $35 per share, or actually $36 per share, to not lose on that trade. So in all transparency, that's what I have on these statements, only $100 on it, but I do have a ton of shares that I will never sell. We're going to be making a video later on today about when you should sell AMC. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Now, let's move into the Ortex data. We did see a jump for the short interest. Now it's at 17.26%. And then 88.58 million shares that are sold short. Share utilization of 77.23%. And the days to cover is still like a ticking time bomb at these extremely elevated levels, waiting for obviously that move to the downside and the price to go up, as that is always the correlation between days to cover and the price of the stock. As far as the Stonko tracker data, nothing too crazy, but this January 21st, 2022 expiration is getting a little wild. 475,000 calls that are out of the money, 110,000 that are already in the money. Now, you may start to see some hedging from the market makers as well for a lot of these calls that are deeper into the money, especially if we do see that move to the upside. Certainly, we won't see large scale hedging until we do start to get, well, run up in AMC's share price, but we start to get close to the actual expiration of January 21st, 2022. As far as the put side for that expiration, 309,000 puts, 63,000 calls. And even for the next 2 weeks or so, the option activity is not there at all. Less than 100,000 total calls for next week and less than 30,000 for the week after that. So look forward to January 21st. As far as the max pain for this Friday, that is indicated at about $29 per share. So take it as you will. We closed under the max pain on Friday. I like to say this is accurate because it has been over the past couple of weeks, but it's not always going to be. And just for reference here, the max pain as of right now for January 21st is $22 per share. I don't think we're going to see a substantial move like that to the downside, but it's always possible. And that's something to be open to, is anything is possible with AMC. We know what we know. The data is here to support all of the claims that we have been making. And the shorts, they have to cover. So hit that like button for me. Consider subscribing to the channel. Let me know your price prediction down below in the comment section. Do you guys have any options? How many shares do you have? Let me know how you guys are feeling, how much exposure you have to AMC. Check out the links down below in the description of this video to get some free stock, as well as the link pinned in the top comment for the buy and sell alerts. If you guys want to be notified every time I make a trade in real time, check that out. That is at your disposal. And we will be starting the portfolio going from $500, taking that to $5,000, trading options mostly, some shares here and there, and maybe some crypto, but mostly options, and documenting that journey, and then ultimately giving it away to you guys, donating the money, doing something with it. So stay tuned for that video as well. Love and appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.